Have you ever felt like you're watching the world through a window, seeing everything but somehow not quite being part of it? For all the INFJ out there nodding right now, this one's for you. Let's dive into why one of the rarest personality types often feels like they're living in a world that wasn't quite built for them. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into something that many INFJs struggle with but rarely talk about. That persistent feeling of being an outsider in a world that seems to march to a completely different drum. The empath's paradox, when understanding everyone means no one understands you. Let's start with something that might hit close to home. You know that feeling when you can read a room like it's an open book, but somehow feel like you're written in a language no one else can understand. That's what I like to call the empath's paradox. INFJ are known for their almost supernatural ability to pick up on others' emotions and needs. We're the ones who notice when someone's smile doesn't quite reach their eyes, or when there's tension in a room that nobody else seems to pick up on. But here's the thing. While we're busy understanding everyone else, we often feel like no one's taking the time to understand us. It's like having a superpower that sometimes feels more like a curse. We absorb the emotions of others like a sponge, but when it comes to expressing our own feelings, that's where things get complicated. The depth dilemma. When small talk feels like sandpaper. You're at a party and someone asks about the weather. Inside your head, you're contemplating the environmental implications of changing weather patterns and their impact on human migration. But you can't say that, can you? That's too heavy for casual conversation. So you smile and say, "Yeah, it's nice out today." This is what I call the depth dilemma. INFJ crave meaningful conversations like plants crave sunlight. We want to talk about dreams, fears, the meaning of life, and what makes people tick. But in a world that often operates on the surface level, this desire for depth can make us feel like we're speaking a different language. The Perfectionists' Prison. When good enough isn't good enough. Here's something that might sound familiar. You have this vision in your head of how things should be, whether it's a project, a relationship, or even just your daily routine. And when reality doesn't match that vision, it feels like everything's falling apart. INFJ often set impossibly high standards, not just for themselves, but for everything in their life. We can see the potential in everything and everyone, but this blessing can become a burden when the real world doesn't live up to our ideals. This perfectionism can leave us feeling constantly disappointed and misunderstood. The Chameleon Effect. Losing yourself while trying to fit in. Have you ever caught yourself acting differently around different groups of people, only to wonder later which version was the real you? Welcome to what I call the Chameleon Effect. INFJ are natural adapters. We can mirror the energy and expectations of those around us so well that sometimes we lose track of our own authentic selves. This ability to blend in might seem like a solution to feeling rejected, but it often leaves us feeling even more isolated. After all, how can anyone truly accept you when you're not even sure which version of yourself you're presenting? The introvert's irony. When you love people but need space. Here's a contradiction that many INFJ live with daily. We deeply love and care about people, but we also need significant amounts of alone time to recharge. This can make us seem hot and cold to others who don't understand why we suddenly withdraw after periods of intense social connection. It's not that we don't want to be around people. It's that our batteries drain faster than most. But try explaining that to someone who's just invited you to your third social event of the week, and you might get that look. You know, the one that says they think you're just making excuses. The truth seeker's tribulation. When authenticity meets social norms, INFJ have an almost compulsive need for authenticity and truth. We can spot fake behavior and insincerity from a mile away, and it makes us uncomfortable. But here's the catch. We live in a world where some level of social pretense is expected and even necessary. This creates a constant internal struggle. Do we speak up about the elephants in the room that everyone else seems content to ignore? Or do we keep the peace and feel like we're betraying our own values? The door slam. When protection looks like rejection, let's talk about something that often makes INFJ feel misunderstood. The infamous door slam. When we've reached our limit with someone or something, we don't just step back. We often completely shut down that connection. To others, this might seem harsh or dramatic, but for us, it's a necessary form of self-preservation. This protective mechanism often makes us appear cold or unforgiving to others who don't understand that we've usually given countless chances and warnings before reaching this point. The Visionaries Burden. When no one else sees what you see. INFJ often have a clear vision of how things could be better, in relationships, in systems, in society. But communicating these visions to others can be frustrating. We see patterns and connections that others might miss, and when we try to explain them, we're often met with blank stares or dismissive responses. This visionary nature, while one of our greatest strengths, can also leave us feeling isolated when others don't share or understand our perspective. The helper's dilemma. When giving becomes depleting. Here's something that might hit home. You're everyone's go-to person for advice and emotional support, but when you need support yourself, you find yourself oddly alone. INFJ are natural counselors and helpers, but this role can become exhausting when it's not reciprocated. We pour so much energy into understanding and helping others that we often forget to save some for ourselves. And when we do need help, we might find that others aren't equipped to provide the depth of support we're looking for. The integration challenge. Finding your place in a sensor's world. Let's face it, we live in a world that often values concrete facts over intuitive insights, immediate results over long-term vision, and practical solutions over idealistic dreams. As INFJ, our natural way of processing information and making decisions can feel out of sync with these mainstream preferences. This disconnect can make us feel like we're constantly swimming upstream, trying to explain our insights and decisions to others who operate from a completely different framework. Finding your tribe, the path to acceptance. So, what's the solution? How do we navigate this feeling of rejection while staying true to ourselves? First, it's important to understand that feeling different doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Your sensitivity, depth, and intuition are gifts, even if they sometimes feel like burdens. The key isn't to change who you are, but to find environments and relationships where your natural traits are valued. This might mean seeking out other intuitive types, finding communities that value depth and authenticity, or creating spaces where meaningful connections can flourish. Conclusion. Being an INFJ in today's world can feel like being a vintage vinyl record in a streaming world, perhaps not the most convenient format, but capable of producing a depth and richness that's truly special. The very traits that can make us feel rejected by society, our sensitivity, our depth, our intuition, are also our greatest strengths. Remember, you're not alone in feeling this way. There are others out there who understand and value exactly what makes you different. The challenge isn't to fit in, but to find the courage to stand out and create spaces where your authentic self can thrive. So, to all the INFJ watching, yes, feeling different can be tough, but your differences are what make you capable of understanding others so deeply, seeing possibilities others miss, and creating meaningful change in the world. Don't let the feeling of rejection dim your light. The world needs exactly what you have to offer, even if it doesn't always seem that way.